Hi, Destiny Word friends, and here we are. I'm here with Michelle, and we're right here on her couch, right in her house, and we're bringing you right here with us on the couch today. And we're going to talk about some really cool stuff. So welcome to our Mystics moment today. And you know Michelle, she's always around here hanging out with me here and there when we can get together. So this is going to be really fun, and we're going to talk about a really awesome subject that's really been stirring in both of our spirits for a long time. This has been a long time coming.
Yes.
Really. And very important. Because I've had people contact me and people ask me at times, so tell me, why do we honor the North, South, East, and the West? Why do we believe in and honor, what would you call it, earth spirits? Why do we do these things? And is it a shamanic practice? Is it what is it? Why is it not a Christian practice? Okay, so we're going to address a little bit of this today. Michelle's got a book to share with us and some info. We're just going to bounce back and forth, and we've invited you to be here with us. If we had some coffee, we'd spread it around. we drank our coffee. Okay, so here we go. So let's just open this thing up a little bit, really, for everybody. So and you can start sharing your book.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I started this. Basically because my husband came home with a book. He was doing some work for some Native American people locally, and he was telling them about the things that I'm interested in, and they said, hey, we have this book your wife might be interested in, and so I want to show it to you. I don't know if you can get a good look at it. It's called The Reluctant Shaman, and it's by Kay Cordell Whitaker, Whitaker, and yes, I was really super interested in this book. And it's about a woman who is living a contemporary life, and these two indigenous people from South America come, and they want to teach her their shamanic ways. And she, at first, she's very reluctant. She's like, why me? Are you sure you got the right person? All this kind of stuff.
Right.
And they said, no, you're definitely the person, and we're to come and teach you and share with you. And so I was starting to read this book, and I was totally fascinated about it, especially it teaches balance. It teaches having balance in our lives and how unbalanced we get, and we don't even realize that we're unbalanced. That's part of some of the lessons of this.
It's a great book.
But yeah, awesome book, very great book. And so, of course, my husband's watching me read this book, and he's not much of a read for pleasure type of person, but he's like, you know what, I want to read this book too. And so he started reading it. And he got to a certain point in the book, and he's like, I'm not sure if I can buy this, Michelle. I'm not sure if I can totally get into it. And I knew right away what he was talking about. I said, it comes to a point where she's this woman, and she says in her introduction and such too, that when these people first came to her, their English was very broken. It was very hard for her to communicate with these people. So she took a lot of that out just so that the book would be easier to read. But some of their traditions that they do in the shamanic religions, if you will, when you're like us, if you've been raised Christian, or for me particularly Catholic, I was a little Catholic girl, and this is what we did, and this is how we do it, and everybody else is foreign, different, and strange, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, I'm not sure I can accept that. Why are they doing this? Is that true?
Exactly.
And part of when you're young, or when you're just doing what you always do, you don't question it. But when you start reading somebody else's experience, you go, I don't know about that. And one of the things first of all, shamanism is the oldest religion out there.
That's true.
And I'm going to say just indigenous people, both North American, South American, and other countries as well. They're indigenous people always have ceremony. And they generally start their ceremony by addressing, like in the Native Americans, they address the four directions, if you will.
Yeah.
Or they also do towards like the ancestors, or they do towards the elements, to the fire, to the water, to the earth, and to the sky. Again, it's basically, there's several different ways of saying this or doing it, but they always talk to the spirits of these things.
True.
And so when you get somebody like us, or a contemporary person who was raised, a Christian or Catholic or any of that type of thing, We don't do those things.
No.
In fact, we don't even think that's in our Bible.
Right.
But the truth is, it is. It's just we haven't been taught that way because it's just people have different agendas.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly.
And if the preacher was never told this or taught this, they can't teach it to you.
Exactly.
And the people who came before had an agenda. You know, when in any nation where people come in and take over the indigenous people, take away their land and stuff, the first thing you do is you villainize the people who are living there. Whatever they believe, however they're doing it, you have to we call them savages, you know, in ancient Egypt in the Bible, you know, the uncircumcised Philistines, you know,
right.
dogs, pigs. We call people other names. We give them this type of thing so that justifies our inhumane actions towards them.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
Okay, if they're not human,
then
they
I don't
must
have
yes.
to treat them as human.
Then and I can, and we do that for political, financial, whatever reasons the powers that be choose to do these things. That's why they do that. A lot of people, though, and more as we're seeing this, we're so tired of all the violence and people mistreating one another. We're looking for, no, wait a minute. How can we say that this is a part of our belief system, and how are we all saying the same things, and is it all together? Mm-hmm. And so for my husband, in this particular book, this woman goes and her indigenous people are teaching her different ceremonies and different things that they do, little songs and that type of thing.
Right.
And she was given, and she meets with them like once a week, and then she'll go back and practice her things, and then go back at a certain time or whatever and meet with her instructors and learn. And you know, because once you have some experience in something, then you practice it, and then you have more questions. It builds a precept upon precept.
Yes.
That type of thing. So she was given something to sing, and she was, one of the things in becoming in this shamanic journey of hers was she couldn't tell anybody what she was doing and while she was practicing. It was like you're an apprentice, you keep your mouth shut, you do your thing, and then you come back and you can talk to us, but don't just spread this around, don't tell people, because people will have a tendency to make suggestions and talk
right.
you out of what you need to do.
Right.
That's basically, I think, the premise behind that. So anyways, she would have to, living in her little apartment building or whatever, she would go out back in the back of the woods, mm-hmm. and there was some water back there, and so she was singing to the water, and in her singing, always, you know, expressing her love or whatever for the water, the indigenous people said, "You made friends with the water spirits." Mm-hmm. And so now they had to do a ceremony because this water spirit loved her spirit and wanted to join her. And this is the part I know when my husband got to that part of the book, I knew he's like, no, wait a minute, my religion doesn't teach that. That just sounds so mm-hmm. weird. I can't accept that. Mm-hmm. And I said, actually, I can explain it to you, and you may or may not like it, but it is really in the Bible. It's just people don't teach it that way.
Yeah.
And basically, and I have my little Bible here, and I'm not going to read it, but I just want you to know it's a New King James. That's kind of what I cut my teeth on. I started off Catholic and didn't really read much of the Bible, and so when I got the first Bible of my own, it was gifted to me, and it was a New King James. And so that's the one I've tore apart all these scriptures to figure out what's in here, what's it saying. Mm-hmm. And if you go to the Bible and you start off in Genesis, it starts off with God creates, okay? And God creates the heavens and the earth, and there's a evening comes and morning follows, and then there's a second day, and God creates, and evening comes and morning follows, and third day, evening comes and morning follows. All these things that people are pretty familiar with the story, but it's like, and then God says on the sixth day that let us make man in our likeness. I'm going to basically create myself or reproduce myself, if you will. And so, and then we have the evening comes and morning follows, and so on the seventh day, God's finished with all His work, and He rests, and we call that the Sabbath day. And we have religions that fight over, is that Saturday or Sunday, whatever you want to believe that is. But anyways, God rests right. from that day. And the nice thing about it, God says He blessed that day, and He was finished with all His work. His work is done. That day never ends. Okay, the Sabbath day is the eternal. And that's what the children of Israel, if you look for, they're always looking to come into the Sabbath rest. They want the time where everything is at peace and there is no more continuing on in any kind of struggle or work, if you will. Okay? And then you start off in Genesis 2 after this, and it's God's, it's talking about, Genesis 2 starts because these chapters are, of course, man-made. But it says then after that, in Genesis 2, it almost sounds like a repeat of Genesis 1. Mm-hmm. It says that God, here's the histories of the heavens and earth when they were created. On that day, the Lord made the heavens and the earth before any plant of the field was in the earth, and before any herb of the field had grown. For the Lord God had not caused it to rain on the earth, and there was no man to till the ground. But a mist went up, and that's how God watered things, and blah blah blah. And then it says in Genesis 7:2, and then the Lord formed God of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. Wait a minute, didn't God do that on the sixth day? Isn't that what is this a repeat of this?
Yeah.
Obviously, no, it's not.
Right.
What it is in our Christian Bible, it says in the beginning, God created. And if you look up the word create in the Strong's Concordance or whatever your favorite concordance is, the word create means to carve out or to cut down. God carved out of himself, herself, itself, however you want to say, whatever you believe,
yes.
God is created, carved out of himself, a piece of himself, and created humanity, if you will, created mankind.
Right.
And then in Genesis 2, it doesn't say God created anything. It said God formed it. So in other words, if God is basically the unseen, God is spirit,
yes.
the unseen realm, then that's exactly what we are.
Yes.
We are spirit, first of all. And then there was a form made around us, and we have bodies that we can see or we can experience through our senses, and that's what we say.
Correct.
And that's why we say when we talk about the spiritual things, these are the things that you don't get from your normal senses. You have to use your spiritual senses, if you will. The equivalent of what we have in the spirit. And so you have religions that, that talk about the third eye or the all-seeing eye or different types of things because they're seeing in the spirit. If you say, I had a dream, I saw you last night in my dreams. Right. Well, you didn't see because your eyes were closed. It's a way of saying something.
Eye. Yeah.
Yes, say of sensing or knowing. It's another sense of that explains what we cannot see with our natural eyes.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, everything was spirit, and then it was formed. So if God created, the heavens and the earth, the firmament, and all these, divides the waters and does all this stuff, God created or carved out, cut down of himself, then there is a spirit in the formation. There's a spirit in the earth, there's a spirit in the sky, in the stars, the heavens, the firmaments, the sun, the moon, the stars, all these things. So we honor
the spirit of the water, and then the formation of the water.
Then it was formed. So there's a piece of God. But see, they're all different. In God creates everything in stages.
Yes.
And in a process. So the spirit that's in, say, the earth or the sky or the fire or any of these things, it's not like the spirit in man. The same way the spirit in man is a different spirit than the spirit in animals, or in the spirit in the mineral kingdom. It's a different type.
It's a different type. Yeah.
So, and even if you took just the animals alone and compared it, it's like the spirit of a whale.
Yeah.
Might be a very slow moving, and it, if you're trying to hear the sounds that they make or whatever, as opposed to.
But it omits a vibration because everything is vibration. Everything comes through vibrations. So that animal is omitting a vibratory energy for you. That's where they came up with the spirit animals, and because a spirit animal is emitting that vibration. And if it's coming to you, it's bringing its energy to you. There's something you may be lacking. Maybe if it be whatever type of animal it may be. Same thing with they talk about this earth spirit, the spirit of the earth, the fire, the water, grandfather, son, is it, and Mother Earth.
Yes.
We've got these same elements going on, and I really feel like we can't. There's no way you can get lost here.
And so really, remember when Disney came out with that movie Pocahontas, a lot of the Christians were very upset about that because they talk about the spirit of the trees, the grandmother tree, and that type of thing, and they don't realize that tree still has a spirit of the Creator in it.
Yes.
It's a different level of spirit. It's not a human spirit or a son of God, if you will, but nonetheless, it still has a spirit to it.
That's right.
And if you believe your own scriptures, the scripture in the Bible where it specifically says that God creates everything in spirit first, and then things were formed, and the formation obviously must match or be good for everything that has a spirit to express itself. And so trees don't express themselves in the same way a human person expresses itself.
Yeah.
But trees teach us, and the animals teach us. Like you were talking about,
That's
these
right.
animal spirits that come to us because their way of doing things are good for us. They have certain things or elemental things that are
Energies.
good. Energies
Yes.
that are good for us.
Yes.
And I'd like to mention that about the trees in specific. If you're starting a practice of meditation, and really the meditation is, how do I talk to myself? Do I talk to myself as if I am a son of God? Or am I constantly beating myself up with my
Yes.
thoughts and my words?
It's true.
And the best thing, if you want to learn to meditate, is to study the trees. Trees stand, whether it's raining, snowing. In this particular time of year, it's the fall, and so they allow their leaves, they
Just
let
let it
go,
go. Yeah,
and they're
let
okay
go.
with that. Because we have things we're okay to let go of, and then there's other things we just soon
That's
hang
like
on to.
one of the foundations of meditation is seeing yourself rooted and grounded like a tree.
Yes.
Just closing your eyes and coming into that peaceful place. And it's so difficult to do because we live this. Our whole lifestyle is contrary to this. It's totally contrary to coming into peace and rest. It's run until you're exhausted, and then sit down, and then drink some energy drink and do it again.
Yes.
Yes. That's our life.
Bypass peace so that you can keep going.
So productivity, yeah.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that is just the wrong thing, and this is why we end up in dis-ease, because then we push our life into a place of dis-ease, and you don't want to do that. So you want to come into peace. So you picture yourself like a tree. You see yourself in your mind's eye, in your third eye, and everybody has it, the ability to see and picture yourself is that grounded tree, those roots going deep into Mother Earth and grounding. And
Yes.
it's really very powerful, just like what she was talking about. So then you can pick up the energy and the spirit of the tree as you even connect to it like that. You don't have to be, you could be in a conversation about the spirit of earth spirits and trees and elements, very powerful.
Yes.
And it's not by chance that so many, what would you call them? I would call them many belief systems incorporate the elements, incorporate the spirit of the earth, incorporate the four directions. Many do, but it seems like Christianity sort of pushed it out and said we don't want nothing to do with that. When God started with it in the very beginning, if we read the scriptures and we believe them, He started with everything is spirit, and everything is spirit, and then came the formation.
Then formed everything. And even people back, of course, we went through the Dark Ages, and then we went through the Ages of Enlightenment as well. And even back, like I think of Galileo and some of these people, they had these types of beliefs as well. They said, we look at the stars, and they studied harmonics and different systems. We would call it maybe our human systems and stuff. We studied the Asians. People studied the way the water flowed and understood that's how our blood flows without ever cutting open a body, because that was way too sacred to do it that way.
Yeah.
So they studied nature, and in nature they discovered themselves. And in these things we discover more and more and how great it really is. And so, like back in the day, Galileo, he basically had a gag rule. There were certain things the church would not accept because they didn't understand that is your scripture. You just weren't taught that way. You didn't understand it that way. And if we decide that all of it belongs to a one creator, then there's room for all of it.
That's right.
There's a place for all of it. And maybe you don't want that next to you or near you, but you can at least accept it as part of the whole.
Yes.
That's always a good place to start too, to say, okay, all right, this is all new. I might have to pick up my Bible and look at this. Okay, yeah, I guess there could be a spirit in it. Does it have like I say, the same kind of spirit as us? Absolutely not. But is it part of the whole? Yes, it is. And it does have something to teach, and if it's in our realm, if it's in our world, then it is part of our teaching and our and how we better understand who and what we are.
It makes me think of that old saying somebody was talking about: if you take one drop out of the ocean, is it still the ocean?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it's still the ocean. I don't care if it's one drop; it's still the ocean. So, if you are one drop of connection of consciousness, of God consciousness, are you still God consciousness? Yes, you are. Is it still spirit? Yes, it is. It's all spirit. It's all life. It's all the whole. What would you call it? The whole universe. That's why some people they'll refer to God as universe. They'll refer to God as consciousness, God as energy, because it's all the whole, the Christ consciousness, God consciousness, Great Spirit, Tunkashala.
And my favorite still is Great Mystery.
Yes.
Because it's a mystery that's never quite solved. We can keep getting more pieces and more pieces,
Yes,
and the more we
that's
put together,
right.
the more we can enjoy it.
That's right.
And that's true. And if you look at everything that's been created, it's biodiversity is the one thing it all has in common.
Yes.
God isn't looking for little toy soldiers and conformity, which
Yes,
is basically
that's right.
most of the religions teach conformity because you're following somebody else's path.
Yeah.
But on a path of spirituality where you say, okay, I want a relationship with God one-on-one, and I'm going to follow what's in my heart that I know is truth. And the truth is that if you take, like you say, a gallon of ocean water or an acre of land, you'll discover biodiversity. Because that's creator.
That's right.
And
That's
like
good.
you say, if each one of us has the spirit of the divine in us,
Yes.
and everything that was made that can be seen is come from a creator who carved out, cut down of himself, itself, whatever, great mystery, took part of itself and created everything, then all that part is necessary. Without that one thing, then the mind of God is incomplete.
Yes.
So that's how important you are,
That's right.
each one of us.
It's so important.
And
to the
so
whole
this,
collective.
so
Yes.
the whole idea of violence now, because that's how this all came through, is violence. People were going to prove that they're better than the other
Right.
through violence.
Yeah.
Okay, the king of the hill and the tough guy wins.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, except for it's created a lot of suffering. And until and unless we're sick of the suffering, we're going to have to look at how can we unite
Yeah.
and be one and say, okay, you have a way of doing it and I have a way of doing it. I might not like your way, but because your way is here, it too came from the divine.
Yes.
And so it too has a point and
it
purpose.
too has a purpose.
That's
yeah.
it. Yep.
Exactly. What I was thinking too is, it came to me, I feel like the Spirit brought to my heart, is that Reluctant Shaman book, and how when we walk into places, this woman comes into this situation, she's reluctant, she's like, but yet there's somebody saying, you're purposed here. It reminded me of Harry Potter.
Oh,
He
yeah.
comes out of the place, of, well, he's just, and he's like, oh, you're the great Harry Potter. You know what I mean? You have this great ability, and it's like it's the connective that we all desire. We all are great. We all have purpose. But there's a reluctancy in us to take our place.
Yes.
Step in, take your place. This is your place. You are the great one. We've waited for you. There's people waiting for you. There's people waiting for you, for me. There's people out there that are waiting for that connection, and they're wanting to know what you know. They want to hear what you have to say, and we have to step outside the cave and just be ourselves, enable ourselves to be free and speak with freedom those things that are in our spirit. And this is what this is all about, and that's what this whole Mystics Moment's about. It's about expanding and exposing and just being out there with things that are a little different. And so this is a lot of different thought here,
Yes. Yep.
but I think it needs to be said.
Yes. And so if somebody comes to you and say, the stars sing to me at night, or something like
Yes.
that, you can say, oh, okay, that's how
That's
they can
good.
perceive that. Yes. Yep. They've learned to accept that and not be afraid.
Exactly. Or I've had people tell me that they hug trees. They sit
sure.
under trees and trees talk to them. And I'm like, that's cool. That's cool. I want to hug a tree and let a tree talk to me. That sounds fun. Or I feel the energy of the flowers. This really speaks to me. I feel when I go see elephants, I feel a really powerful energy. It speaks to me, and I feel a very one connection with it. I feel a connection with whales. I feel a connection with dolphins. It's very powerful, and that's what we are, created beings, and we need these energies around us. We're so powerful because it builds upon us and creates a more of a dynamic for us to be more empowered, to lead a more empowered life, so that we don't succumb to all of the things around us, but we become. We don't just sing the song, we become the song. We don't just read the words. Now we become the words. We are the words, and we are living epistles, So it's good.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yep. And so if you're looking for a good read this winter,
Yes. Excellent book.
somebody, who's willing to look outside their own space.
Yep, I read it.
Yep.
It's good. It's a good book. Fantastic. And as always, the Word is always a good book too.
There we go.
Yep.
It's a good one too.
It's a good one too. Yep. It's a foundational type of thing. It'll give you some good reads. So thank you so much, Michelle. This has been fantastic.
It's been
Blessing. And bless you all. Thank you. And namaste to you all. Have a fantastic day. Don't forget to check me out on destinywords.org. Make a personal appointment, and all the other places like Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, and connect with me. I would love to hear from you, and send us messages if you'd like that, the typing. Send us emails. Oh wait, no, it's better like this, right? Send us some text messages or whatever you want to do, and just let us know what you think of our these mystic moments. We want to keep doing more of them. It's going to be fun. Love y'all. Take care. Bye.
Bye.